Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Savant Technology and Bruhati's webinar, Agile Architecture for the Digital Age. I'm Meron Yadigari, the Managing Director of Savant Technology. Joining me today are Harishi Kuchibolta, Shay Mistry, and Manuel Ditoma, the directors at Bruhati. Savant Technology is a search and selection business specializing in the technology and finance and HR consultancy sector. Our partnership with Bruhati is created to add value to our respective businesses as well as our clients. We're hoping to achieve this goal across 4 strategic areas. Where our clients require architectural expertise on projects that are based on time and material, Savant Technology will look to introduce Bruhati onto those projects. Secondly, we will look to support Bruhati on those projects by bringing on additional resources required on the programs. Thirdly, Bruhati will help Savant Technology in creating a pool of candidates in the architectural space for our respective clients. And the 4th area where we're looking to add value is webinars like this, where we're able to share our knowledge and experience within the architectural landscape. The webinar today is being delivered on a complimentary basis. However, Savant Technology has a charity of choice, which is Action for Children's, raising funds for homeless children. I will encourage you to make donation to this charity. We will have a question and answer session at the end of the webinar. You're able to raise your question by pressing the button on the right-hand side of your screen, the speech bubble with a question mark in the center. We will endeavor to answer as many questions as we can. If we're not able to do so, we are able to answer these questions after the webinar, and we're happy to deliver a one-to-one consultation as well. Finally, I will encourage you to share your feedback at the end of the webinar. We are very keen to be running future webinars. I'm very keen to hear your feedback on today, so please share that information with us. I will now hand you over to Shay Mistry, who will introduce Bruhati and talk about our agenda today. Thank you.
Thank you, Meron and the Savant team. Good morning, everybody, and a warm welcome to Bruhati's webinar on Agile Architecture for the Digital Age. I'm Shay Mistry, one of the directors of Bruhati, along with Manuel Ditoma and Harishi Kuchibolta. Our teams consist of experienced architects, business analysts, and agile delivery practitioners who help deliver large-scale digital transformation programs across many industries. We've worked in the telecoms industry, where we've led the architecture and solution design at Telefonica UK on their digital transformation program. We've also worked extensively on the merger between T-Mobile UK and Orange during the merger and new creation of the EE brand. We've also led the solution design of the smart metering program in the UK, which is the largest known IoT implementation in the UK. We're currently working with the National Health Service, where we're helping on high-profile COVID-19 programs, and we're also helping with the British Red Cross define some of their digital architecture strategy. Some of the core services that we offer are strategy and architecture, business transformation, agile delivery, and cloud services. So the contents of today's webinar consists of key questions that we've asked in order to have an agile architecture mindset. So these are things that we've come across and we've experienced during our work in large-scale digital transformation programs. So we'll briefly go through what are the benefits of Agile? What are the Agile impacts to the architecture and design team? Do you need any Agile architecture deliverables in an Agile transformation? Have you implemented an architecture and design framework? We'll provide some lessons learned that we have found during the course of our programs. We'll also give a brief demo of a Bruhati architecture, design and delivery framework that we've put together using well-known tools in the industry. We'll have a Q&A session, and at the end of the webinar, we'll have the opportunity to win a tablet. So I'll hand over to my colleague, Manuel, for the rest of the webinar.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Shay. It's Manuel Di Toma. I'm Bruhati director, and I'm now trying to make this a bit more interactive and try and involve you. So you see me fidgeting a bit here. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to ask you a question. What are the benefits of Agile, according to you? So I'm launching the poll. You have 30 seconds to answer. Okay, I can see some answers already coming through. Improved time to market so far. Anything else? Productivity increase, good. A lot of people like the time to market. Okay, you have 10 seconds left. Increase your engagement, fantastic. Done, closing the poll. Well, the good news is you're all right. And now we're going to see a bit in more detail. So engagement, you can make your customers and also employees up to 50% more engaged. You can time to market. You can improve time to market. You're right, 75% faster delivery. Quality, you can reduce up to 75% your defect rate, and you can increase productivity up to 50%. These are some of the benefits of introduction of Agile. And what are the impacts on the organization? Well, usually Agile is introduced by IT and portfolio management team and delivery teams. And that the benefits of introducing Agile is also propagated through other parts of the organization like HR, procurement, compliance, all the back office units, and also externally, suppliers, service providers, and contractors. They can all have benefit. But let's talk about architecture in more detail. If we're introducing an Agile architecture practice, we have to go through a set of steps. We need to define an architecture assurance framework. We need architecture artifacts well defined, and also a way to control the emergent architecture. We're going to talk about all of this in the next slides. And what are the benefits of introducing Agile architecture? There are many benefits. You have one repository of knowledge of your enterprise. You can have cost control. You can have governance. Your return on investment is improved. End-to-end traceability across the organization can be achieved. And visibility of the architecture team is improved because architects are involved in day-to-day delivery. And also the impact that architects can have on the organization is increasing. Another question for you. What are the impacts to the architecture and design team? I'm going to launch another poll. Okay, so you have 30 seconds to answer those questions. Not 30 questions. Okay, so governance, billing incrementally, good. Roadmaps, yeah, they're impacted. We still have 10 seconds. It's a bit more fun like this. Okay, 5 seconds. I'm going to close it. Good. So according to you, there's a incremental building. 50% of you said that's the most important factor impacting architecture. And then governance, and also some impact on roadmaps. Well, like before, you're all right, but now we're going to see a bit more in detail. So let's start from governance. Yes, there is much more governance required when we are introducing an agile architecture practice, as things go much faster and a tighter level of control needs to be implemented. Parallel work. There is a lot of parallel work happening in agile digital transformation. Architects in general are used to have enterprise architects setting the strategy, solution architects setting release architecture, and then solution design, system design, setting the application design. This still happens, but it's much more compressed, and there are overlaps. So these teams need to work together in order to make sure that those overlaps are well defined. Roadmaps. Yes, there is an impact on roadmap. In the Scaled Agile framework, there's a term called Agile Runway, and the roadmaps have near-term sight, and they have to try and develop and deliver high business value immediately, and still looking at the long term and how we can achieve that. Emergent architecture. The emergent architecture is a terminology again from the Scale Agile framework, and is the architecture that emerges through the delivery phase. So when we're delivering, the architecture is changing, because this is happening because requirements, which in the agile terminology are epics and user stories, are not fully defined until the release is almost to the end, which means impacts to the architecture are always present. Support planning. We need to work very closely with program and project management, because there are a lot of dependencies ever changing because of the fast-paced environment. And near-term features, looking at how can we step-by-step increment our value. Continuous delivery. We need to make sure that the systems and platforms we're using support a continuous delivery environment. So we have to move to technologies like cloud, like serverless, and containerized technologies. And variability. Things can change very fast up to the last second before delivery, which means sometimes architecture options have to stay open, and then the decision has to be taken closer to delivery date. Third question for you: do you need architecture deliverables in an agile transformation? That's a very exciting question. Let's start the poll. You have 30 seconds. So what do you think? Do we have to document agile delivery? Well, the fact that I have a big 100% yes so far. Still 5 seconds. Okay, some of you are saying no. It's at 4% so far. Yeah, I'm closing the poll. Most of you said yes, and you're all right, actually, because we need it. Now we're going to see a bit more about that. So let's first start with architecture and design governance structure. This is an example of a delivery structure that we used in the past to deliver a large-scale agile transformation. And at the bottom layer, you can see we have squads. Squads are the operative units. They work on a day-to-day basis, trying to take some unit of scope, in this case epics and user stories, and deliver them end-to-end through the delivery process. In the last big transformation program, we had up to 21 squads to manage. So how can you manage all of this parallel work? You need a level of control on top. That's where we see business squad of squads and technical squad of squads, where business squad of squads are managing business aspects and unlocking business showstoppers. Technical squad of squads to the technical side. And on top of the technical squad of squads, there is an architecture and design board. This is because, as we said before, we have to govern the emergent architecture. So all the changes to the architecture have to align to the organizational strategy and the architecture strategy. And then in terms of main deliverables, we see we need a blueprint, which is an end-to-end view of a release. This is a release view we're looking at. And then domain level designs. This is when you have a lot of applications. And in order to select groups of applications and assign them to domains and make sure that there is a document of reference. And then, as usual, you have low-level designs, and these are very much application-centric. And then design and delivery assurance activities. We need to make sure the architecture and design team always look at the assurance of their designs through the delivery. But now, a bit more detail. Here we are. So this is a bit of a scary slide, so let's try and break it up a bit. There are two main objectives I want to vehiculate here. The first objective is, in dark blue, you see a list of artifacts that architecture team can look into. And then in green and red, we're showing the difference between a fully connected organization and a disconnected organization from a tooling perspective. And we're going to talk about it now. Let's start with the top layer here, the digital transformation value chain. This is what in Bruhati we call the digital transformation value chain, which is helping to simply split in 4 different phases the end-to-end transformation. We have strategy, where architecture team need to set vision and the strategy. The portfolio phase, where roadmaps and release architecture are set. In order to do so, we have to make sure we have a reference enterprise architecture repository, which is the reference point for processes, data, application, technology, interfaces, and other details like APIs and files. This reference then is the precondition to enter into delivery. Because in delivery, then what we're going to do is making sure that the process are assured, the data entity impacts are well defined, application impacts are well identified, impacts to interfaces, dual running impacts when we're talking about having multiple stacks, and we have to make sure that we decide where to route call to, as an example. And then once we keep only the strategic stack, how do we migrate from legacy into the new stack? We need to make sure that architects validate the non-functional requirements and identify non-functional impacts, the acceptance criteria of epics and user stories, and make sure there is end-to-end traceability of the requirements across the whole delivery lifecycle, from strategy into live service. And then the most important one is an architecture and design framework. Without a framework that links all of this together, you're going to have quite a disconnected environment. It's going to be very difficult to control. And we spoke about having an end-to-end design and domain level design. And lastly, when we're live, we need always to remember that the solution has to be ready to scale up. And so how do we help them to scale up? And making sure that the service performance are there. Now, the last part of this slide is about the concept of fully connected or disconnected organization. In many organizations we worked with in the past, we see that organizations decide to use different tool sets for different parts of the delivery lifecycle, and they're very much disconnected. They are their own silo. This creates all sorts of issues and doesn't help to link and join everything together. Bruhati has defined a fully connected framework. It's called ADAF and ADDF that can use tools in your organization and link them all together with a common meta model that helps you to perform digital transformation in the most successful way. Last question. So here we are, ready to start. Have you implemented an architecture and design framework? I'm launching it. And there's also an answer that says, what's that? It means if you don't know what an architecture and design framework is, now Rishi is going to explain it to us. So let's have a look. You still have 10 seconds. It's great. I can see that most of you had some experience with architecture and design frameworks. Well, actually is balancing now. It's 58% on yes and 40% on no. It's quite exciting to see how it changes. 1 second, I'm closing the poll. Okay, so it looks like that most of you did it, but there's a good part that didn't really do that. And also there's people that don't know what it is. So I hand it up to Rishi now So you can explain everything about architecture and design framework.
Thank you, Manuel. Good morning, everyone. Let's now take a look at our frameworks. So to achieve the business objectives, transformation programs must be assured by governance frameworks. This is our experience. When multiple organizations, teams, stakeholders, and business interests are involved, assurance activities are needed to ensure the governance, make sure expected business objectives are met, and the relevant business benefits are delivered. For effective transformation governance, an organization needs two fundamental frameworks: an architecture and design assurance framework, which we call as the ADAF, and an architecture, design, and delivery framework, the ADDF. Now let's take a look at the architecture and design assurance framework, which spans across the whole digital transformation value chain, assuring that the architecture and design team is involved in every aspect of the transformation delivery lifecycle, from defining strategy through to successfully delivering the business service. Within this framework, a number of assurance aspects are considered for each of the delivery phases. Under strategy assurance, we assure the enterprise architecture, business needs, stakeholder engagement, and under portfolio assurance, we then assure the program, planning, cross-organization or program alignment, change control management. Now, under the delivery assurance, where most of the activities take place in a program, the majority of stakeholders are involved. In this phase, we provide assurance for the program, PMO, solution architecture, designs, requirements, releases, integration, migration, in case you have dual run aspects, and also any other delivery aspects. In this delivery phase, our architecture and design and delivery framework, the ADDF, manages every aspect of very close. Under the live service assurance, we then assure the service management, security, infrastructure, production readiness. And so now we take a look at our architecture, design, and delivery framework, the ADDF, more closely. So what is this framework? So the deployment of an architecture design framework tailored to the organization is key to a successful transformation. In our experience, such a framework must include tools, processes, templates, a meta model, and taxonomy that will be used to model, document, and govern architecture and the design of the solution. At the center of our ADDF is the common meta model that connects the business, delivery, and solution layers to effectively manage all aspects of the transformation program. Within this framework, under the business layer, it addresses the business objectives, the business architecture, and processes. The solution layer offers a platform to be used to define both the planned and emerging architectures and gives an end-to-end traceability and assurance. And the delivery layer manages the actual delivery and the related assurance of the digital transformation. So as you can see, ADDF is a very simple, complete, and flexible framework, and it is tool agnostic. It can be tailored to the digital transformation needs of the organization, and it can be integrated with the existing tools of your organization, or if in case you want to introduce new tools, then it can work with those tools too. At Bruhati, we have implemented our frameworks, for example, at one of the largest IoT programs in the UK and a very large digital transformation program as well. Now, we take a look at the lessons learned. Over the years, we have learned a number of valuable lessons from implementing Agile architecture in digital transformation programs, and those have resulted, those lessons have resulted into in our frameworks, basically, the creation of our frameworks. The success failure factors of digital transformation include resistance to change, alignment and collaboration of teams, effective stakeholder management, keeping alignment between product and project, timely decisions and management alignment, and most important of all, a well-connected frameworks set and tools. I now hand over to my colleague Manuel for the next part of this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, let's get a bit more hands-on, and we're going to see a demo on how this can actually be used to deliver digital transformation. So we're going to show you the Bruhati ADDF for Agile transformation. And before getting there, a bit of whiteboarding. So I just want to make sure that it's clear to you of what we're actually trying to do through this process. So let's use as an example 3 groups of stakeholders, which are very important in an end-to-end digital transformation journey. We have the business executive and delivery team, we have business architecture and analysis team, and then we have solution architecture and design team. These 3 teams are involved throughout the strategic portfolio and delivery and service phases, which are the 4 phases of a digital transformation journey. And what they do is they are going to use ADDF, delivery layer, business layer, and solution layer tool set to work on their agile transformation journey. They're going to start with setting the teams, strategic teams and objectives. This is usually done by the business executives and the delivery team with support of the rest of the organization. Then they move into setting a set of releases with portfolio and making sure that those are correctly planned. This is usually done into the delivery layer, and we're going to see some tools that organization can use to do that. And then setting the scope in more detail. That's when we enter the delivery phase. In the delivery phase, we set scope, high-level scope elements called epics, and then inside epics, user stories for more detail. And when this is done in the delivery layer, automatically we can hand over to the other teams in the organization to proceed with the delivery phase. In this specific case, we're pushing downstream to the business layer for impact assessment against end-to-end processes. When this is done, business analysts have completed their impact assessment. They can then push to the solution layer a request to proceed with impact assessment against the solution and also proceed with solution design. Once the delivery has completed the design, and there has been the implementation, and this is all included in the solution layer, then we go to live service. And after live service, we circle back because this is an agile cycle, and we can continue with the next releases, refining our product. So what are the benefits of using this approach? We have a very simple delivery layer where we can manage scope and manage your delivery. We have a very complete business layer where you can define your business objectives, define and refine your processes, and also a very flexible solution layer that can adapt to your organization and be tailored to your needs, and can be used to define architecture, impact assessments, and design traceability. These are only some of the benefits you can get. We're now going to see two examples of the implementation of ADDF using 2 best Gartner Quadrants products in the enterprise architecture space, which are Software AG Aris Alphabet and the Biz Design Horizon. We're going to start with the Biz Design one.
Welcome to the demonstration session of the Bruhati Architecture, Design and Delivery Framework for Agile Digital Transformation. Ben represents some of the core stakeholders involved in a digital transformation journey. The digital transformation value chain starts with strategy definition, then portfolio of changes planned. Change initiatives are organized in releases that are delivered and then moved to go-live service. Delivery, business and solution stakeholders are involved throughout the full transformation value chain and use the Bruhati Architecture, Design and Delivery Framework and tools to seamlessly collaborate and drive the end-to-end process. Business executives start the value chain transformation journey defining the organization's strategic themes. This is achieved through the use of the delivery layer tool set. In this example, it involves a Jira Kanban board. The next step in the transformation journey involves business executives and delivery leaders. They are planning change initiatives, assigning budget and program priorities. In this example, Jira is used to organize themes and epics in releases. When the release delivery work starts, business and delivery team are working on defining epics and user stories in the release. This is still done in Jira as part of the delivery layer, just before handing over to business layer for process analysis. The fourth step in the digital transformation value chain is to identify business process impacts. After strategic themes, release and epics are defined in Jira as part of the delivery layer, they'll push to the process layer. In this case, this design horizon platform where business architects and analysts are assessing process impacts. In the business layer, the business process hierarchy is refined and high-level processes are created. When those are completed, business layer is pushing the request to the solution architecture and design team to start with a solution impact assessment. Solutions impacts are now identified using Horizon. For each epic, application impacts are identified. In this example scenario, a release context diagram is automatically created using the list of impacted application in the release. After the diagram is adjusted as required, the solution architect decides to model a set of technical flows that describe how the solution behaves to meet the epics in scope. Application impacts are here represented with a sequence diagram. Other representations can also be used. Let's now look into a couple of scenarios where digital transformation stakeholders can leverage the Bruhati architecture, design, and delivery framework reporting capabilities. Any stakeholder can access the business, delivery, and solution dashboards to perform analysis and impact assessments. In this example, we are assessing the dependencies of the product selection strategic theme. The app navigation page is used to select the theme's landscape. This is a very easy way to perform an impact assessment. Custom dashboards can be easily configured to control all different aspects of business, delivery, and solution of your digital transformation. You can, for example, measure your delivery velocity, control artifact status, generate dynamically release, and domain application, business, data, and technology architectures. Remember that the Bruhati framework is tool agnostic and can be tailored to your organization tool set and needs. Call Bruhati for free consultation. Bruhati, innovative digital transformation.
Yes, we're now going to see the same framework about how it was implemented using software AG products.
Welcome to the demonstration session of the Bruhati architecture, design, and delivery framework for Agile Digital Transformation. Ben represents some of the core stakeholders involved in a digital transformation journey. The digital transformation value chain starts with strategy definition, then portfolio of changes planned. Change initiatives are organized in releases that are delivered and then moved to go-live service. Delivery, business, and solution stakeholders are involved throughout the full transformation value chain and use the Bruhati architecture, design, and delivery framework and tools to seamlessly collaborate and drive the end-to-end process. Business executives start the value chain transformation journey defining the organization's strategic themes. This is achieved through the use of the delivery layer toolset. In this example, it involves a Jira Kanban board. The next step in the transformation journey involves business executives and delivery leaders. They are planning change initiatives, assigning budget and program priorities. In this example, Jira is used to organize themes and epics in releases. When the release delivery work starts, business and delivery team are working on defining epics and user stories in the release. This is still done in Jira as part of the delivery layer, just before handing over to business layer for process analysis. The fourth step in the digital transformation value chain is to identify business process impacts. After strategic themes, release, and epics are defined in Jira as part of the delivery layer, they'll push to the process layer. In this case, software AG platform where business architects and analysts are assessing process impacts. In a business layer, the business process hierarchy is refined and high-level processes are created. When those are completed, business layer is pushing the request to the solution architecture and design team to start with a solution impact assessment. Solutions impacts are now identified using alphabet. For each epic, application impacts are identified. In this example scenario, context diagram is automatically created using the list of impacted applications. After the diagram is adjusted as required, the solution architect decides to model a set of technical flows that describe how the solution behaves to meet the epics in scope. Let's now look into a couple of scenarios where digital transformation stakeholders can leverage the Bruhati architecture, design, and delivery framework reporting capabilities. Any stakeholder can access the business, delivery, and solution dashboards to perform analysis and impact assessments. This is a very easy way to perform an impact assessment. Custom dashboards can be easily configured to control all different aspects of business, delivery, and solution of your digital transformation. You can, for example, measure your delivery velocity, control artifact status, generate dynamically release, and domain application, business, data, and technology architectures. Remember that the Bruhati framework is tool agnostic and can be tailored to your organization tool set and needs. Call Bruhati for free consultation. Bruhati, innovative digital transformation.
Okay, so now we're going back to our presentation. And we just want to remember that we did work in partnership with Software AG and BizDesign, and we certified our framework with the tools. Now it's about questions. So if we can see if we have some questions from the audience.
Yes, Manuel, we got a few questions here. I would remind everybody, if you want to raise any questions, the button is on the right-hand side, speech bubble with question at the center. But I've got a few questions here that I can go through with you. So first question, when planning for an agile transformation, what aspects should be considered before starting?
Rishi.
So I think the key aspect becomes the should look into how prepared are we? How prepared is the organization to bring agile into to implement agile in the organization, and how much resistance do they have? So they need to do a bit of an internal analysis. So basically, as we say, as we've seen the lessons from the lessons learned, one of the key resistance factors to implementing agile are people. So it's because agile is not just a simple methodology to implement, or it's basically we have to bring in a culture. We have to develop the culture within the organization, and we need to make people more comfortable with being agile. Agile is not there to take away their jobs. You need to give that comfort factor, or it's not there to put them on the spotlight, because we need to, people think that it is that because there are so many things happening in parallel at the same time, and they need to give enough attention to the whole thing at the same time. So the main thing is to ensure that there is the management buy-in, and because any resistance to change should be met with an equal and opposite kind of force. So we need to bring in the management also to bring into the whole thing and make sure that the people are made comfortable, and the management's strategy, the organization strategy is well established, and the direction is clearly shown, and engage people. I think that's the key thing that we need to do.
So every part of the organization is ready, rather than just introducing technology. It's the transformation of the whole business in some ways.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's key. Is work together. By business and IT working together in these teams, you're going to achieve a lot more in your outcomes. I think that's what we found, not having those silos, having those product teams working in scrums, that you're all delivering the same goal, is to provide the benefit to your end customer. I think that's key.
Yes, and from my side, in order to enable this synergy, you have to have a set of processes and tools that allow you to do that. So try to imagine you have a 500 people transformation program. So how do you make sure that all of them work effectively, not against each other, or duplicate their work? It's really important you prepare the ground before scaling up the work. Otherwise, a lot of effort is burned, and unfortunately, risk increases.
Thank you for that. The next question I have is, how do you make digital transformation projects ROI friendly?
I think the key thing there is, from my side, is to keep any project or any transformation program or any project per se should be aligned continuously to the business objectives, and the business case, which is, which basically created that program to set and achieve the objectives. So it has to be continuously aligned to those. So that's the key for me. Keep continuous alignment to the business strategy, the business where the organization is heading in terms of their business strategy, and keep that alignment to the business objectives the project is created to set to achieve. So that's what it has to do. That continuous alignment to the business objectives is the key in a transformation program.
Yeah, and yeah, he's right. And we've seen how in the digital transformation value chain, there is a feedback loop. That feedback loop we've seen after step 6 in our diagrams goes back to assess again lessons learned and feedback into strategic decision. That's where return on investment can be maximized.
Yeah, so just to add on that is evolving. So understanding what was the return once you delivered something. Was there a return? Did you maximize that return? And if not, then what tweaks or what additional features do you need to add to gain that return on investment? So I think that whole evolution loop and being quick time to market is really important in a transformation program.
Superb, thank you. Got a question from Richard. Richard has been involved in an assignment to recover global MDM program. And he says, I sense to do what you are recommending would have meant changing 80% of how the internal IT work. What practical steps do you take when you are faced with this?
So usually we'll start with, it's not like, introducing Agile like a big bang. So we should define an Agile adoption strategy and make sure that even though Agile itself is disruptive, that disruption is implemented in a controlled manner with the right set of, with the right type of adoption strategy that is tailored to the organization. We can definitely help with, how to exactly do it. We can, there's a lot we can discuss within this, so we can take it probably, offline and discuss more. We can give a consultation on this.
Yeah, I think that if I can add on this, is there are a couple of factors here. It's quite important to understand the level of maturity of your organization, and that's why an assessment is very recommended. And then secondly, it doesn't really take much time to set up the right tools and framework if you are deploying them. That's why what we are showing here is a pre-built package. You can deploy it in a few weeks, you're running. So then how do we bridge the gap between adopting that framework and the way your organization operates is something we can assess. And I don't think we will feel and see any challenge, because in our experience, we've done this many times. And one organization is quite committed to deliver digital transformation, and it's a group effort, then as long as you have the right set of tools and processes to follow, and those are agreed up front, then usually the organization smoothly proceeds. As long as you're proceeding on the right direction, though.
Okay, well, Richard has already said he'd be happy to have this discussion with you offline, so I guess that's one of your first consultations. So I'll move on to the next question. I've got a question from Tony. What is the best method for capturing backlog?
So I think the key thing with the backlog is, I mean, you can use any tools out there. You know, we've used Jira, as you can see in our demos. You know, or you can use other tools like if you are an Azure house, you can use Azure DevOps or any other DevOps tool that helps you in create the backlog in the right order. I think the main thing is having a backlog is one thing, and then making sure that you have the right business priority assigned to the items in the backlog, and you have the right structure in place to ensure that the backlog just doesn't sit as a backlog, you know, as a wish list of items. So I think there's a lot of work needs to be done in terms of refining that backlog and making sure that, you know, the right business value, the right business objectives are defined for each item in the backlog. And what is it basically trying to achieve? You know, the item in the backlog, what is it trying to achieve for the business? So as long as it's focused towards the business objective and the goal that it needs to meet, and the right prioritization is done, then you can use any tool to actually manage it.
Yes, I agree with Rishi. And on this, we've seen before on our simplified meta model, you have teams, you have epics, where teams are the strategic objectives, and then the epics are the scope item groups, and then you have user stories. And that's exactly your backlog we're talking about here. You want to deliver capabilities and align to strategy, and then you have a set of granular delivery you have to do. So how do you prioritize that? And the solution in here is making sure that also the right decision makers are involved and very much active. Ownership of decision making is one of the most critical factors when we talk about managing the pipeline of work.
Great. And the last question, I think we're limited on time. So this question is, what are the most common challenges you faced from your experience using Agile?
I think it's basically understanding, right? Because, you know, understanding that what is Agile for your organization, that's the key, right? Because the definition of that, because it's a culture that needs to be built and, you know, within the organization. So how much buy-in you have from your stakeholders, you know, I think it's kind of a repetition to, I sound like repeating my earlier answer, but I think it is important to understand that the key challenges include people and understanding what Agile is, and setting up the right direction by the management for the organization. And then the business buy-in is key, because most of the transformations we are now seeing are business transformations rather than, you know, typically IT-led transformations. So they are more business focused. So that business has to understand what Agile is and how to work within that environment. So, you know, this understanding and adoption and setting up the right frameworks and tools to make sure that people are following that and the right governance is put in place is the key.
Yeah, I think you touched on it, Rishi, around the Agile adoption within our organization. So I think that's quite key, is how do you go from a traditional, maybe waterfall mindset, large programs delivering in that fashion, and then your organization wants to transition to Agile. Well, how do you do that? What is the roadmap to get you there? What is the transition path to get you to that point? And, you know, it's not done overnight. It takes time. You need to pick the right programs. You need to have the right structure and commitment from your organization that this is the right path forward. But, you know, working in now large transformation programs, we see the benefit. We see the quick time to market, the return that organizations get if they work in this manner, and the benefit to the end customers, is going to be a lot more beneficial.
And if I can add on top of this, there's just a detail on the delivery side. We're not talking about transforming everything to Agile. Most big enterprises keep a hybrid model where you have your co-delivery done Agile, and then there's still a set of waterfall. As an example, some suppliers might work in a specific domain and want to keep their delivery work waterfall. So planning those dependencies is a critical factor, making sure that you involve as early as possible all these stakeholders impacted. That's why you need end-to-end blueprint done as fast as possible. And we can explain you more details in a one-to-one session about that. But we can absolutely focus on making sure that the impact is clear as soon as possible, because otherwise it can be quite a challenge to make sure that all those deliveries are synchronized for the release.
Okay, thank you. That's great. We can now move to the next part of our webinar, which is the one that everybody has been looking forward to, where opportunity for someone to win a tablet. So, Manuel, as far as our raffle is concerned, I need a number from you between 1 to 50.
Great. So thanks to the 50 people that remained, I'm using the random number generator from Google. 25. Who's 25?
25. If you bear with me, I will tell you. 25 is Mark Seddon. So the person who wins the tablet today is Mark Seddon. Mark, we will be in touch with you to let you know how we can get this across to you.
Fantastic. A nice Fire HD for you, Mark. Okay, yeah, thank you so much. It was really a pleasure to talk to you all today.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, look, can I take this opportunity to thank the guys at Bruhati, Shay, Manuel, and Harishi. Very good session, very informative. I would like to thank everybody who attended today. As I mentioned to you earlier on, we're hoping to run a series of these webinars where knowledge can be shared, the specific knowledge. So your feedback at the end of this session will be very, very useful to us. We also said to you that if you require one-to-one consultations, then please get in touch with us. But on behalf of Savant Technology and Bruhati, I want to thank you for today, and we hope to see you soon. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.